Good morning. We're so happy to have Travis back with us this morning. Yay! We're on April the 13th, 2018. More good reading. We're in the book of Joshua, chapters 7 through 9. Luke chapter 16. It's a beautiful spring day, so it's Fabulous Friday. Yay, Fabulous Friday. We're reading our one-year daily Bible study. Takes us all the way from the New Testament. Oh boy, okay. Start all over. Takes us all the way from the front cover of the Bible all the way to the end of the Bible through Revelation in a year's time if you follow the reading plan. So today's April the 13th, Joshua 7 through 9. And what we're seeing here is, first of all, I should have done a text study on it to see how many times God tells Joshua what he says to him in chapter 8, verse 1. Do not be afraid or discouraged. He tells Joshua over and over again, do not be afraid or discouraged. Do not be afraid or discouraged. I think that's our word for the day. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. So what we read is Joshua going to war. But what we read today is a true leader, a godly leader. Now, y'all have already heard my little spiel that every one of you are a leader. Every one of you are expected to set the example. And Joshua sets a great example for us today. He was on purpose and intentional with everything he did. But what really stuck out in today's reading more than anything is that before he did anything, he prayed about it. And he heard from God. And then I just felt the ease in which he did what he did today. The ease. It wasn't hard. It wasn't burdensome. He didn't doubt. I read no doubt whatsoever today. And yet I know that he battled that. Otherwise, God wouldn't continue to tell him, do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. So I want you today, think about your life and where you're at right now. What is your battle? What is your potential struggle? Depending on where you're at in your faith walk, what has God told you to do? Has he told you to finish what you started? Has he told you to start something brand new? Has he told you to go to work every day and work as though you're working for me? Has he told you, you fill in the blanks. What is it that God has told you to do? And today's reading is a picture of that. God uses the battles that he sent Joshua and the men into to go do, to give us the picture of how the leader of that responded. He prayed, he got a word from the Lord, and then he went and did it. And he didn't question, should I go to the front and ambush them, or should I go to, wait a minute, God said to go behind and ambush. And that's what he did. God said to hold up your sword. Now, can you imagine a man of war, a mighty man of war, Joshua was, praying and say, okay, Lord, there's 20,000 of them out there. 20,000. Have you ever felt like all the odds are against you? There's 20,000 of them. And what did God tell him to do? To point his sword at them. And as long as he pointed his sword at them, the enemies fell. And then what's the sword symbolic of? The Word of God. So the sword that we get to wield is the Rhema word of God, him speaking to us, and the written word of God that we read. And I love what Travis just said, if y'all didn't hear it. The sword represents God's love. We get to wield that sword at whoever or whatever the resistance is at us. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. reread it again, and watch Joshua, the leader, in his leadership role, take the men into victory. A victory that on the surface didn't look like it could be won. See, in the flesh, it looks like there is no hope here. There is no hope here for this business. There is no hope here for this marriage. There is no hope here for whatever struggle you're having, this relationship. There is no hope here for life. Yeah, oh yeah, thank you, Travis. I mean, there's so many people out there that's how they feel. There's no hope for this life. The odds were overwhelming. And on that day, it said that they killed over 20,000 of them. Well, 12,000 in verse 24. I was thinking I read another one that there was 20,000. So maybe I've got my numbers wrong. I still can't imagine coming up against 12,000. Whatever the number is, I don't mean to misrepresent it. Wow. Luke chapter 16, verse 1 through 18. This story, this year, has really ministered to me. There was a certain man who had a manager handling his affairs. So obviously this man, if he had a manager handling his affairs, had plenty that he hired somebody to manage his affairs, right? And then he found out that the manager was mishandling his affairs. So he called him and said, "What's this I hear about you? Get your report in order because you're going to be fired." So he tells him that he's going to give him a chance to answer to the reports of what he was hearing. And so this manager, instead of working on the report and trying to hide it and cover it up, he just set out to get money coming into himself. So he altered the books so that he could get the money coming in so that he could be taken care of when he got fired. This story speaks to me so profoundly. I'm telling you. And then when the manager comes in and checks on him and to get the report from him, he commends him because at least he had some forward thinking. He at least started making plans for the future instead of looking at the, here in one report is I owe him 800 gallons of olive oil. So the manager told him, take the bill and quickly change it to 400. Here was one that was 1,000, change it to 800. So he was pocketing a lot of money. And he was pocketing a lot of money, and the owner of the business coming in, instead of adding up all of the money that this guy just pocketed, he said, well, finally, you start making plans for your future. He goes ahead and fires him. But, where did that man have to be in his faith with the Lord? This manager had to truly believe that business he owned was God's. And he had to truly know, and probably had seen it many, many times, that God provides. Because the least of his cares was about the money. The least of his cares was about the money. I mean, you and I would go in and, by golly, I'm going to file charges, and and you're going to pay me back, and you're everything except what really counted. But when you have so much trust in the Lord that he provides, the money didn't mean anything to the manager. It wasn't about the money to begin with. He'd been trying to teach this manager, I assure you. I just know he'd been trying to teach this manager. We get these positions of some authority, and then we think we're ready to just take over. We think that we just know what's best. I mean, same thing happens with me as I'm trying to step out. I know that God's using this story for me. I think I'm ready. I've heard from the Lord. I'm to step out. I'm to take one more big step, and then I forget to do what Joshua did, and that's every day pray, Lord, what would you have me do today? And I have to obey today. And today, he'll have us planning for tomorrow in his way. The plans for tomorrow will look like his plans, not look like our plans. So anyway, it just really spoke to me this morning. Proverbs 13:2-3. Wise words will win you a good meal, but treacherous people have an appetite for violence. Those who control their tongue have a long life, Opening your mouth can ruin everything. See, Joshua could have chosen to yell the war cry. Joshua could have chosen to explain to everybody over and over again what they were supposed to do. Instead, Joshua pointed his sword. He was still, and he allowed God to work. Be still and know that I am God. How many things, I just have to wonder how many things I've messed up because I got impatient with God. I wanted it on my timing, not his. There's such powerful scriptures in here about that. If you are faithful, so Luke 16:10, if you are faithful in little things, you will be faithful in large ones. But if you're dishonest in little things, you won't be honest with the greater responsibilities. And if you're untrustworthy about worldly wealth, who will trust you with the true riches of heaven? And if you're not faithful with other people's things, why should you be trusted with things of your own? No one can serve two masters, for you will hate one and love the other. You will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and be enslaved to money. So what is it that you're resenting right now? I venture to say that's your idol. You're spending more time thinking about that than you are God. That'll really minister to me. What is it that you're resenting right now? That's your idol. He uses the example of money in this example, but it can be anything. Because if we're truly, truly, truly abiding in him, we'll not have any resentment towards anyone or anything. Wow. Okay, well, it's a fabulous Friday. Fantastic Friday. And we're getting ready to have a super Saturday and getting ready to have a sweet, sweet, sacred Sunday. So thank you guys for joining. And Brooke will be here next week. Is it? No, it's the next week, isn't it? Okay. All right. Getting ahead. See?
She'll be here.
Yeah, she'll be here.
I'll be here.
She'll be here. In a couple of weeks, Brooke will be bringing the word for us. So we'll be taking up the praise reports and the prayer requests that you guys send in to us. I appreciate those text messages asking for prayer for things. And I'll remember the 2 that got sent to me yesterday. Love you guys. Bye-bye.
Hey, girl. Just so you in. You're good.
Good morning.
Good morning.